Although it's blurry, this seems to be Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke in costume as Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen standing near each other in a tent. Clarke appears to be wearing a jacket on backwards, indicating that this is a rehearsal and that the cameras are not rolling at the moment. It seems that just like Azor Ahai, who had to draw his sword into his wife's living heart in order to create Lightbringer, Jon will have to do the same. Azor Ahai is a legendary figure in the fate of the Lord of Light. Thousands of years ago, during the Long Night, Azor Ahai forged the sword Lightbringer, which he used to defeat the darkness of the Great Other. This came at a price, however, as in order to unleash the sword's true powers, he had to plunge it into the heart of his loving wife. A prophecy that was mentioned multiple times throughout the show foretells that Azor Ahai will be reborn as the prince that was promised. I already made a video regarding which character might be this prophesied savior, but Jon, son of ice and fire, seems more and more to be the Lord's chosen. If Jon Snow truly is the prince that was promised, it means that Daenerys is probably going to die. According to prophecy, these are indicators of the coming of Azor Ahai. After a long summer, when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world, he, Azor Ahai, shall be born again amid smoke and salt. He shall wake dragons out of stone. He shall draw from the fire-burning sword Lightbringer. He will also be born of the line of Aerys II and Rhaella, and according to Rhaegar Targaryen, he is also the Song of Ice and Fire. In the TV show, the first time we stumbled upon Azor Ahai's theory was the scene in which Stannis wields a magic sword that was forged by plunging a blade through the burning statue of the maiden at the Sept at Dragonstone, after Melisandre convinced Stannis that he is Azor Ahai. That ceremony was meant to be a rebirth of Azor Ahai. The burning statues of the Seven provided the smoke, and the waves on the shores of Dragonstone provided salt. But however, Stannis was not born from the line of Daenerys and Rhaella, and also, while Stannis' sword shined thanks to Melisandre's magic, it gave off no heat, meaning that the sword could not possibly be Lightbringer. Now let's see if Jon Snow truly is Azor Ahai. After a long summer, Azor Ahai will be reborn amid smoke and salt, prophecy says. This could point on Jon's resurrection. He was reborn after he was stabbed to death by Night's Watch traitors, so here we have rebirth. But what about the part of smoke and salt? Well, in my opinion, the wall could represent the salt, since in the books it's told that the wall contains the salt. Quoting from the books, the door's upper lip brushed against the top of Bran's head, and a drop of water fell on him and ran slowly down his nose. It was strangely warm and salty as a tear. Now let's try to solve the smoke part, since the prophecy says that Azor Ahai will be reborn amid smoke and salt. Well, the smoke part also came true. Do you remember that Melisandre, while she performed a resurrection ritual to bring Jon back to life, do you remember that Melisandre cut locks of Jon's hair and tossed the curls into the flames, after which we saw the smoke? This is only one part of the prophecy, but it's not the only part that matches with prophecy. It said that the prince that was promised should have the blood of the dragon, should be born of the line of the Mad King Aerys Targaryen and Rhaella Targaryen, which Jon is, as he is son of Rhaegar. Therefore, Rhaella and Daenerys are Jon's grandmother and grandfather. Before I proceed, let me just highlight that the showrunners know from George R. R. Martin himself who Azor Ahai is, and therefore we should pay attention to every single detail, no matter how small it could be. With that being said, let's get back to the final episode of Season 6. Besides revealing that Lyanna Stark is Jon's mother, they also revealed that Jon was born under a bleeding star, which fulfills the part of the prophecy which says the prince that was promised will be born under a bleeding star. As we could see, Eddard Stark entered the Tower of Joy with a bloodied sword Dawn, the ancestral sword which was forged from a fallen star. Does Dawn covered in blood counts? Yeah, I think it does. It's also important to highlight a few other facts, like for an example, when Melisandre looks into her fire to see Azor Ahai, Melisandre only sees things related to either Jon or Snow. Second thing that I would highlight is Jon's dream that he dreamed in the books, the dream in which he fights the others with a red sword burning in his hand. Long story short, both Dany and Jon are tied to the Azor Ahai prophecy, which includes a historic legend of a hero sacrificing his life to save the world from the Long Night. Melisandre told Daenerys that she has a role to play in the prophecy, as does Jon Snow. Daenerys' role in the Long Night is most likely her eventual sacrifice and death. Basically, after a huge amount of casualties, and upon realizing that their chance to survive the Long Night is small, Jon will realize that he has to do something horrible to end the Long Night. In order to save all innocent people from a certain death, Jon will have to kill Daenerys in the final episodes of the show. However, let's get a little bit back. In the Season 8 premiere, there will resurface a book about the Long Night that Gilly was reading in the previous season. In the Season 7 premiere, show pointed out that the book Gilly picked up and began reading was a book about the Long Night, while the exact part she was reading was about the prophecy of Azor Ahai, and they did it purposely. Sam already found out about Jon's true parentage in Season 7, which basically confirms that Jon is a Song of Ice and Fire. However, Sam will also learn about Jon's death and resurrection in the final season, and it's quite possible that it will lead Sam to proclaim Jon the prince that was promised, a hero that will wield the flaming sword to stand against the others, and if he falls, the world falls with him. In the third episode of the 6th season, Melisandre already told Jon that he might be the prince who was promised, but Sam will now try to convince Jon that he is in fact the Lord's chosen. This would mean that Jon Snow, as the prince that was promised, will defeat the Night King and save Westeros, but in order to do so, Jon will have to sacrifice Daenerys, who will at this point be his wife and mother of their child. However, while this theory would most certainly match with George R. R. Martin's announced bittersweet ending, I still believe that a theory of mine will come true. As a matter of fact, I believe this leaked photo confirms it. It's Daenerys becoming the Night's Queen. The Night's Queen is an unseen woman in Game of Thrones, a legendary figure known in the Seven Kingdoms and among the Free Folk. According to a legend, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch found in the haunted forest a cold woman with bright blue eyes. He took her to the other side of the wall and declared himself as the Night's King. Earlier in Game of Thrones, we've learned that the leader of the White Walkers, the Night King, is able to create other White Walkers, but only if that human being is a pure-blooded, incest-born. This means that the Night's King could turn Daenerys into one of them, since Dany is pure-blooded, incest-born daughter of King Aerys and Queen Rhaella Targaryen. The only way for the living side to end the Long Night is to either defeat them, which would be insanely hard, or to make a pact. This pact of ice and fire would include Daenerys. Have you ever wondered why is the Night King even coming south? Why was he preparing an army all those years with which he started marching south at the moment of Daenerys' arrival at Westeros? I was wondering about that ever since the 6th season ended, and I came to a conclusion that Daenerys' arrival at Westeros is the reason of the Night King's preparations, the reason of his march south, and is the reason of every single death that the Seven Kingdoms is going to confront. Daenerys could have won the throne as soon as she arrived at Westeros if she wanted to. As Jon stated, Dany did not take the throne yet only because many innocent people would have died if she had decided to storm King's Landing. She did not attack the capital because she did not want to cause death upon millions of innocent people. And she will not ever sit on the Iron Throne because she will decide to give up her life so those people, including her child, could live. Daenerys' visions are foreshadowing that Dany could easily win the Iron Throne and sit on it, but it also foreshadows that she will realize that she will not be able to sit on the same, since she will have to give up on it for the greater good. She will accept a pact with the Night King in order to end the Long Night. Daenerys will become the Night's Queen, whereupon herself and the Night King will go beyond the wall and rule over it as a form of peace agreement between the living and the dead. Beside Daenerys' visions, as I've already said multiple times, Dany's arrival at Westeros and the Night King's preparations and his march to the south fits perfectly in timeline. I don't think it's coincidence that all of those years the Night King was preparing and gathering a huge army with which he started marching south at the same time of Dany's arrival at Westeros. Also, the fact that the show included multiple scenes that are proving that the Night King can create other White Walkers only if that human being is pure-blooded, incest-born, has to be foreshadowing something huge. To that, add the fact that Daenerys is incest-born daughter of King Aerys and Queen Rhaella Targaryen, and this theory has a huge chance of coming true. Not only that this theory would be one of the greatest surprises that showrunners could pull out, but it would also fit perfectly with the bittersweet ending that George R. R. Martin announced. Daenerys will in this theory die in the hands of Jon Snow, only to later open her eyes as the Night's Queen in the hands of the Night King. If you would like to know all details about this The Night's Queen theory of mine, feel free to check out a video by the name The Night King is Coming for Daenerys. Long story short, this leaked photo goes in favor to two possible endings of